guys, welcome back to another fun math video. Today we're going to talk about finding the length of part of the circumference of a circle. So you probably know what a circumference is already. So remember, the circumference is the measure of this outline of the circle all the way around. That's the length of it. So if like you took a measuring tape and you measured how long all the way around the circle, that would be the circumference. Kind of like perimeter for other shapes, right? For polygons. So a circumference is the same thing as perimeter. Now, we've done that before, and we know that the formula for circumference is 2 times pi times your radius, right? R being your radius. But what if we just want part of the circumference and not the whole thing? Kind of like you don't want to eat the whole pizza, you just want part of the pizza, right? So, and think of the circumference as the pizza crust, like the bread part. I'm that one person that loves the bread part of pizza. I don't know about you, some people leave it. But let's say that you don't want the whole pizza crust all the way around, you want part of it. So that's what we're doing today. The way that we can learn how to do this is to compare it to degrees. We know that the circle all the way around, the degrees, right, is 360. All the way around a circle is 360 degrees. Now, we can compare this in a proportion format. So here, the formula here says that we can say that since all the way around the circle is 360, so we put the total at the bottom and then part at the top, the part of the total. So we're going to put the total circumference. This is the total circumference. And then this is the total degrees. And then at the top, we want part of it. So we're going to say L is the length of the arc that we're trying to find, part of it. And X is also part of the degrees. So this is the formula that I want you to keep in mind as we work through all of these problems. When they say arc length, think of this proportion. Compare it to the degrees, part over the total, or part over whole. Just a reminder that there's two different ways to measure angles. We can measure angles in degrees, but we can also measure angles in something called radian measure. So we can measure angles in degrees or radians. Now, the whole or the total degrees we just said was 360 degrees. In radians, all the way around the circle, it would be 2 pi. So that would be the total for if you're measuring the angle instead of degrees, you would measure it in 2 pi. So over here, you would replace it with 2 pi. Only replace it with 2 pi if the problem you're dealing with measures the angles in radian degree. How do you know if it's in radian measure? It doesn't have a little bubble next to it, like this one has a little bubble next to it. It won't have that little bubble if it's in radian measure, and a lot of times there is the pi symbol next to a number. Here it says find the length of arc ZY, round to the nearest hundredth. And as you can see, the symbol for arc is like this little curved, kind of like a little curved hat, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to write our formula. Remember the formula, and as you can tell, this is in degrees. It's in degrees. So because it's in degrees, I can write my formula and say that the total would be 360 degrees, part over the whole, part of the length over the whole circumference. And let's fill in the information we already know or that we were given. So we are given the angle, part of the angle, right? Not the whole 360, we were given part of it. So that would be 75 degrees, that's the central angle, over the total, part over the whole, part over the total. We want to find the length of the arc, so that's where we're going to replace it with an X because we use X most of the time when we're dealing with things we are trying to find in math. 2 pi, and your radius, they gave you the radius, which is 4. All right, at this time, we can do cross multiplication. If you want to solve this by hand, you can do the butterfly method. We could also plug this into Desmos. And now I'm giving a line. I can click on the line and it says it's 5. The answer is 5 pi over 3. If they want your answer to the nearest hundredth, we gotta get it in decimal format. So I'm gonna go ahead and write the 5 pi over 3 underneath here. So 5 times pi divided by 3, and it'll give me my decimal answer, which will be about 5 point, they want to do the hundredths place, so that's 2 numbers after the decimal, about 5.24, and it's in inches because we're dealing with the units, units. All right, that's your answer. Let's do one more here. So you've got the formula once again is part over the whole circumference is equal to part of the degrees over the entire degrees. And you know we're dealing with the degrees because the angle given is in degree mode. Let's go ahead and replace what we know here. Part of the degrees would be 130 over 360. We're looking for this arc right here, so we're going to put an X there so we can put it into Desmos. Now they gave you the diameter. If they give you the diameter, remember that the radius is half of that. So that means I'm going to use 5 instead of 10 here. And your units are in centimeters. All right, so let's go to Desmos, plug this in. So now that it's in Desmos, I'm going to go ahead and click on the line. And the answer is 65 pi over 18. So remember, if they wanted in decimal, we got to type this into Desmos to get it in decimal format. So my answer is 11.34 centimeters. There you have it. Once again, thank you once again for joining me on this topic, and I hope it was clear to you. Go and have some fun practicing this concept. See you in the next video.